Hi friends, it's Jarle. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I made this spring themed shaker card and I would like to walk you through the card making process. Let me start by showing you the main items I used for this card. These garden party sprinklets will be the star of the show. It has lots of colorful flowers inside. Then I have the spring showers from Sunny Studio Stamps. I love all the characters with their umbrellas. And to make my shaker, I also used the reverse stitch scalloped circle windows from Lawn Fawn. I will eventually be taking out a stencil as well, but I'll show you that later in the video. I started with a rectangle piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock. I die cut it with the largest of the large stitched rectangles from Lawn Fawn. This is my go-to cardstock for ink blending. So I took out my beloved Distress Oxides in the colors Salvaged Patina, Squeezed Lemonade and Worn Lipstick. This will give the background a rainbowy kind of look. First I'm going in with the Salvaged Patina. This is one of the prettiest colors, I think, definitely in my top 3. Then I take the Squeezed Lemonade and I make sure to go over that bluish color as well, just to get a good blend. You do have to overlap the colors quite a bit if you don't want any harsh lines in your blending. Then I'm going over to the last bit of the cardstock with Worn Lipstick. I also overlap the pink with the yellow. And then I go over all the colors again multiple times. I think the secret to getting a smooth blend is to take your time and just go back and forth between every color. I really love this color combination. It is definitely giving me spring vibes. Now I'm taking that scalloped window and deciding on the placement. I want it more on the top of the card, so not as much in the middle. I'm also taking that stamp set from Sunny Studio and deciding on which images I will use, and also fiddling with the placement a little bit. When I knew where I wanted to go with this card, I placed some purple tape on my circle and then I ran it through my die cutting machine. This gives me a nice looking window on my rainbow ink blended card panel. Here I was like, I think the background looks kind of plain, so I took out my stencils and checked which one I wanted to use. And I thought the rainy sky stencil worked perfectly with the theme of the card today. So I placed my background panel on the Make Art station. I take some purple tape and I make a little loop, and then I'm positioning my stencil on top. I decided to use my all-time favorite stencil paste, which is the pearl color from Lawn Fawn. I'm smearing this on my blended panel. I do make sure to not go all the way down since I wanted that little boy from the stamp set just below that circle. So it would have been kinda strange to extend that rain even further down, so below the boy, if that makes any sense. I also avoided that negative space from the die cut circle just because that would be just a waste of paste. When using stencil paste, you need to spread the paste all over like you're actually spreading butter on a sandwich or something, just making sure that everything is covered. So time for the big reveal. I really love that pearl paste on the rainbow ink blended panel. I adore this look. Now I'm stamping some of the images from the Spring Shower stamp set with my Misty. I'm using jet black ink from Lawn Fawn and Transotype paper. The jet black ink is a Copic friendly ink, and when I am coloring with alcohol markers, I always tend to use the Transotype paper. I did stamp the tiny little stems like that flower with a regular stamping block instead of my Misty. But you can definitely do that with your Misty as well. But I wanted to stamp two little flowers, so the stamping block was just easier for that. This is my first stamp set from Sunny Studio and I'm absolutely in love with the brand now. I did color the images off camera, but you can find the Copic Combinations in the description box below. If you do like me to include the coloring in the video, let me know in the comments and I will definitely consider doing that in the future. For my shaker, I trimmed down a piece of clear acetate to about 4 by 5¼ and now I'm adhering this to the back of my ink blended panel using some dry adhesive. You can also use Scotch tape for instance, just make sure that it's adhered very well. I still had to decide which paper I wanted to use behind the shakers. So I went through my stash of patterned papers and I went for the Watercolor Wishes paper pack. This remains one of my favorite papers. Just because it's so simple, it can be used for many things. I went for the blue-green color and I trimmed it down to A2 size, so 4¼ by 5½ inches. To create that well for my sequence, I used Heavy Doodle double-sided adhesive foam strips. I always use this for shaker cards because these strips are thicker than regular foam tape, so I don't have to double up foam tape whatsoever. I just use these strips and I go around the whole circle window. It's also best that you remove the liner paper before adhering it to the panel. And this way you kind of manipulate the foam strips better to make that circular shape. Now I'm placing in all those sequins from a garden party, and these are all flowers in different colors. I thought this went well with my background. Now to remove a little bit of the stickiness of the foam, I went over the sides with my powder tool. And this way all the sequins will move freely and they won't get stuck to that foam. Now I did put foam strips all around my panel and I used the same foam strips because everything had to have the same thickness, of course. So when I removed the liner paper, I placed on that piece of Watercolor Wishes paper and I pressed down firmly just to make sure that the sequins were kind of trapped into that circle. And this is what it looks like now. Beautiful, right? Time to assemble the card now. I placed all my images where I wanted them, but before actually adhering them to the cards panel, I chose to work on my sentiment first. I chose the Showering You with Love sentiment, and so I prepped my black cardstock with my powder tool from Tailored Expressions, and this is black licorice cardstock from Lawn Fawn. Then I stamped my sentiment with Versamark ink. This was a brand new ink pad, so it was all nice and juicy. By the way, I always re-ink my ink pads except for this Versamark ink. I always buy a new ink pad of this one because somehow the ink pad is always kind of smudged. So I always just replace it instead of re-inking it. Now I'm sprinkling on some white embossing powder and I'm tapping off any of the excess. And then I heat it with my heat tool. As always, I cut out my sentiment with a banner die from Lawn Fawn. The banner is a little bit too wide, but you can easily fix that. So first I lined up my banner with the left side of the sentiment, and I ran it through my die cutting machine, and then I lined up my banner with the right side of the sentiment, and I ran it through my machine again. And this way you get a custom side sentiment banner, so super simple. I did wipe off any excess powder with a microfiber cloth so that the cardstock is nice and black. And then I could begin adhering all of the images. I started by mounting the sentiment with foam squares, and then I did the same thing with all of the other images. Some were adhered with foam squares and others just with liquid glue. This gives the card lots of dimension, but now I do have to say that this is a very bulky card, so I will probably have to use a slightly larger envelope. I think the regular envelopes for A2 size cards might be just a little snug. For my card base, I took a piece of Nina Classic Crest Solar White, and this was a piece of 11 by 4¼ inches. I folded it at 5½ to have a top folding card. I scored this once again, and then I adhered my whole shaker card panel, and my card was all done. I really love how it turned out. I love the colors of the background, that stenciling, but mostly I really love those cute stamps. I think you will be seeing more of Sunny Studio in the future. It's such a cute brand. Thank you so much for watching. You can find all the supplies in the description box below, and I will be back with another video soon. Bye!